I'm the editorial director at OpenStax.
That happened.
Yeah.
I'm perfect. Yes.
Thanks very much for taking the time. Very glad to speak to you all. And I want to make sure we have enough time to tell you what you need to hear, and allow time for any questions. Also, anything Patrick needs to get across, would like to get across regarding XYZ, and so on. Patrick had given me sort of a heads up about what we might want to talk about. So I guess I just put the question to you, how much do you know about OpenStax in general, and also XYZ, and do you need any general overviews, or do you just want to dive right into calculus and XYZ, and things like that? Any viewpoints on that? Where we should start?
Hi, Anthony. This is Patrick. You hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So West LA College, they've been using XYZ for it'll be 2 years this summer for some developmental math courses. Been going very well, and went and presented some more courses with XYZ. Gave them a lot of options, including OpenStax that talked about developmental math, and then happened to have the Calc 1 book on me, and that sparked a lot of interest with everybody. And that's what led to this call today, is the calculus, but really the overall view of Rice and OpenStax and what you're doing. It's super cool, and everybody likes to hear that story. And then some specifics about calculus. West LA, like a lot of schools, been using Stewart off and on for the past 300 years, I think.
Okay, great, thank you. So everybody, I will then, because you have that background in XYZ and a little bit about OpenStax, what I'll do is kind of just go through some of the highlights of OpenStax as a whole, and then I think that will take just a few minutes. Obviously, if you have any questions, stop me, or focus me. And then we'll get right into calculus and how it all applies to the calculus course, if that works for everybody.
The key people involved in the calculus adoption decision are not on this call.
Okay.
Know that.
So, should we proceed as anyway, or is that a problem?
I don't know. I was told this was mainly about the algebra test.
Well, I think on the overall, I could also talk about algebra as well. That's no problem, too. So, whatever you'd like to cover.
Okay.
A lot of this applies to both. So again, I'll start going, and then in the interest of time, I don't know how much time everybody has, so I just want to be sensitive to that as well. So we are this is OpenStax, based at Rice University. We are a nonprofit open educational publisher, basically a small company within Rice University, and we've been for we started out as a software platform, a publishing platform called Connections, and then about 5 years ago started publishing textbooks that we put through a publication process, peer review, accuracy checking, graphic design, things like that, to make it relatively similar to the textbooks that you and other faculty use and are familiar with. The other aspect of that is that we coordinate closely with providers such as XYZ, great homework solutions, and other types of partners providing, all sorts of, educational resources, particularly in mathematics. Obviously, homework practice, tutorials, resources along those lines are very important. So, the partnership with XYZ is extremely important to us, and we work with Patrick very closely to keep that going and to support schools such as yours. So basically, our goal is to increase access to open educational content and to increase academic freedom along those lines. So basically, I'm not going to read slides to you, but you can see, some of the other goals. When we provide open textbooks to people, that allows faculty to, make choices, use them as they see fit. Some faculty adopt them as a replacement for their existing textbooks. Some use sort of both alongside each other, and some, move to our textbook but a different system or something like that with the cost savings that are provided. So, in a general sense, our goal is to make a textbook that you can adopt pretty seamlessly. And in the way we do that is we make the books very similar to the scope and sequence, basically the same content and organization as you'd find in most of the mainstream textbooks. We don't mimic any specific textbook. We do have authors. We have a lot of reviewers and faculty within each course that inform the development. So our book, as you'll see later, our calculus book, for example, it isn't a Stewart clone. It is pretty well aligned to Stewart, but that's because many other textbooks are pretty close together when it comes to calculus, for example. And college algebra or algebra and trig or whatever is somewhat similar. We'll have our own, some of the own, our own organizations, some of our own way we handle content, but generally it's pretty much, it's pretty similar to the mainstream textbooks. They're written and reviewed by a faculty, college faculty from the United States. Usually we have an author team of maybe 2 or 3 core authors, some additional contributors, and then a review panel depending on the book of anything from 50 to 100 faculty from around the country. We try to differentiate or diversify in terms of geographic region, type of school, and so on. Once we publish, we keep an eye on errata, obviously, especially in a math book. You got to keep an eye on whether we're getting reports of any errors or things that aren't displaying correctly, and so on. These are openly licensed. Calculus is the one on the right, which is it's distributed. It carries a Creative Commons attribution, a non-commercial license, which means that it can be redistributed anywhere for a non-commercial purpose, and with attribution. But within your school or to other like-minded schools, you can share, edit, change, build on, customize as needed within the book. Use pieces of it, build on it, like I said, to make it customized for your needs, as long as that is attributed to us and also shared alike. You then, open that up to other people to use as such. I'll just pause just for 1 second if anybody has any questions so far. So far, so good?
Do you have any experience integrating with the Canvas platform?
That's a great question. I happen to have been on the phone today with Cyrus Health from West LA College, and we are working on a program to do it systematically. And actually, we're working on a program with the Chancellor's Office at California schools to make that happen in a more systematic way. So far, what we've done is we've provided some test bank conversions, assessment conversions, and we've also coordinated. He did all the work. We did not do the work. It's all Cyrus. Cyrus Health, I'm not sure if you know him. He's an instructional designer at West LA. Has done 4 courses where he's taken the OpenStax textbook, some of our ancillaries, some of his own material, and he's developed Canvas shells, Canvas cartridges, whatever you call them, they're used at West LA, and he did that for economics, psychology, chemistry, and sociology, which are 4 courses that are being where they've adopted OpenStax books at West LA College. And then once he did it, he didn't have to do this, but he opened it up for other people to use. So our experience directly doing it, we haven't done a lot of our own integrations, but we know that many schools do it. And at your school, there happens to be somebody who does it a lot. And he basically does it for anybody who adopts an OpenStax textbook as they need it. I know that there's time demand on him. I can't guarantee that he would do it in a specific amount of time. It's obviously between his schedule, but he has done it pretty often. He's an outstanding advocate and supporter of many people. So anyway, that's our background, and it's just ironic that I'm speaking to you today after meeting with him this morning. Does that help? Does that answer your question?
It confirms what I had thought was the case.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
An XYZ is a LTI compliant system. LTI is the language by which the different systems talk to each other. And so a lot of schools are using XYZ. Seems like everybody's going to Canvas. And we certainly integrate two ways, linking the Canvas gradebook, the XYZ gradebook, and then single sign-on as well.
Okay.
What we're working on for fall. So we're ready to get that.
All right, so that's important too, because then any grades you do with any activities your students do with an XYZ would port over. Very, very important. I'm gonna I think some of the stuff, if it's okay, I'm just gonna go through some of this. Sorry, I don't want to take too much time on sort of the just so you see. I'm not sure if you looked at our books, but they have Here's a. This is actually from calculus. Oh no, sorry, this is from physics. Full color graphics. A lot of mathematics. Our first textbooks were physics, and algebra. Similar textbooks like that. So the math side is where we started, so that we could handle the hard stuff, and then we've moved on to humanities and social sciences as well. So just some figures, just so you do have them. Over 3,100 schools are using OpenStax, including West LA, in those courses I mentioned. About 10% of introductory courses are using at least one OpenStax book across the U.S. And we also have a partner school program where these schools work together and within their own organizations to advocate for basically affordability, not just use of OpenStax, but use of OER and other resources along the same lines, including resources aligned with OER like XYZ and other systems. So basically, this is they have to apply for this, and we've been supporting them, and they've been supporting us for quite some time. So that's a great program, and it's expanding all the time. You'll notice Pasadena City is one of them, relatively local to you all, and they're actually also using the calculus book, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Over $166 million saved on OpenStax so far. Just a few general questions we get a lot. There's no catch. It's free. You can use it as much as you want. Your students get to download it as many times as they want. Unlimited devices, no expiration, anything like that. Obviously, the arrangements for something like XYZ are different, but that's also to make sure you're capturing their grades and they're active in the way they need to be. But for the OpenStax book itself, it's as I said, we do update the books. The web view of the book is updated. The website view of the book is updated relatively continually. But for print versions or PDFs, things that look like static textbooks, we update them only in between semesters, so that we're not disrupting anybody's use in the middle of the course. We also do some full-scale revisions, but it's not on a set schedule. We basically do it when we need it. We don't have a 2-year revision cycle or a 3-year revision cycle or anything like that. We do have a very active customer service organization. They are highly responsive. There's chat, email, and responses for faculty and students. The one thing that I should mention that comp copies, sample copies of the hard copy of the book, it's very difficult for us to provide it. I should mention. Obviously, if you adopt the book and you need some copies, certainly, but it's very hard for us to send out sample copies. As you probably know, each time a publisher does that, it's something like, I don't know, somewhere in the range of $40 to $60 all told between the unit price of the book, the mailing, warehouse inventory, movement, and so on to send out one copy. and we, that would start to deplete our resources. So we're not able to do that, although, the book is available for unlimited downloads on your devices. And accessibility, we do address. It's very important to us. We're improving it all the time. Our web view is generally accessible. Our PDFs are improving on that front. We also work very closely with Bookshare, which provides accessible versions. We also have iBook versions, and which use the iBooks accessibility functionality and take advantage of that as well. All the images are alt tagged, and in particular math, which is always a problem with accessibility. We use MathML as much as possible, and that's a markup that works with JAWS, with screen readers and similar accessibility programs. So I'm just going to dive into calculus in case unless anybody has any questions so far. I'll just pause again for that.
Just a question I posted in the chat. I'm interested to review an intermediate algebra course, which is close to the title I posted. If you can send me some information on that, that would be great.
I know the intro book very well. Yes. So let me address that, because I know somebody else. Sorry, I couldn't tell who was speaking, but somebody else mentioned that maybe we shouldn't focus on calculus today. It's really up to you. But I'll mention that for the algebra book, and we have an algebra series basically. It's college algebra, algebra and trigonometry, and pre-calculus. The 3 books in that series. They are, there's some overlap between those books, as you probably see in other series, such as the Angel series or Mike Sullivan's series or something like that. But they go through the same process. So basically, we work with a panel of authors and contributors. They analyze the courses, and we got a lot of feedback from faculty, providers and so on, faculty advocates and others, teaching the course, and develop the book along the same way. So the algebra book in general, I'm not going to speak to the exact Angel versus our book, chapter by chapter comparison, but it's generally along the same lines, about the same amount of chapters and so on. And I will send on, maybe link to it here while we're talking, but basically where you can go see it and see the comparison and things like that. So in general, I mean, do you want me to focus on calculus, or should we focus on the algebra? What would be, or kind of try to do a little both?
I think it would be a good idea to just maybe briefly touch on calculus. This is Matt Robertson, Chair of the Math Department.
Okay.
Just briefly touch on calculus, but then maybe go into the algebra sequence.
Okay.
We have sort of a record of teachers that teach both the algebra and calculus.
Great. So I'll just do a quick summary. Our calculus textbook is 18 chapters in 3 volumes. There's some overlap among the volumes because we know that not everybody, teaches those courses the exact same way. So there is some overlap. Again, everything's free, and your students can download it as much as possible. So if they didn't need the other book, they could always get it. But we know that sometimes it's helpful to have, that book right available. It's basically a traditional approach. We weren't doing any reform movement or anything like that. Our books are quite modular, so there can be moving around or skipping of sections and so on, but it's a traditional approach. The authors are Jed Herman from UW Stevens Point and Gil Strang. So Gil Strang was the original author, and then Jed Herman and the team of other authors kind of took that book and made it a little more mainstream, and obviously worked on things like level and so on. Assessments are important, or, practice questions, so on, into chapter questions. There are several hundred per chapter. Let me just do a quick comparison to Stewart. It's basically, very, very closely aligns, about the same number of chapters. Some differences are a separate limits chapter. Stewart has an inverse functions chapter. Our book does not. I mean, the content is covered, but we just don't cover it separately. And we also have a separate, but brief, power series chapter. There's another difference in sort of some of the minor stuff, but I'm actually going to cover that. I shouldn't say minor, but on a smaller scale, I'll cover that. You'll actually see faculty's feedback on another piece just in a second. just some example adoptions of the calculus book. What we want to draw the attention to here is that it's a range of different schools, and again, very similar to many, leading textbooks. You got a number of community colleges, state schools, private schools, major universities, and so on. In some of these, in most of these, it's just been being used this past year. Some started earlier. 2016 to 17 was the first full year that it was, very widely used. We're getting new adoptions all the time. It will be a big increase of it, and this isn't all the adoptions, obviously. This is some of them, but we'll see a big increase. We've already seen a big increase for this fall. And we have a strong partnership with XYZ. We are in the process, I believe, of implementing calculus. Again, the book is a little more recent, and it's been a very close partnership and very, very helpful, for us and obviously for many faculty. Patrick, anything you want to say here around, calculus and how it would be integrated, or?
Sure. Yeah, we're working on the calculus templates now. The calculus templates in XYZ are going to be very similar to the templates that you're currently using. That is, they're going to be set up. They're going to be very closely aligned with the calculus textbook. You'll be able to, the problem numbers will be correlated with the OpenStax textbook. And it's all part of the XYZ OpenStax Pass for students, which is $30 for a year. And they have these available in fall.
Great.
Calculus.
Great. One of the that's outstanding. One of the things also, and again, I don't mean to skip along. I just want to make sure I don't know how much time everybody had. Patrick had mentioned maybe an idea about the reviews. So just as I've mentioned, during the development, the books are thoroughly reviewed by many faculty, and we really press them. I'll tell you, being an open publisher, I used to work for traditional publishers, and reviewers were plenty happy to critique a chapter from a book, from Rogowski book from Freeman, or Stengage book or Pearson book when I was there. Or sometimes with open, they sort of try to give us a pass and say, oh, well, for an open book, it's good. And that might be the case, but our goal is not to have that be said. We want to have it be a book, just as good or close to good as you'd like to see. So we try to make them unbiased, try to make them very thorough, but they are sort of compensated by us. And, so I know that many publishers would provide you with those, but, we try to be a little more independent. So there are other independent reviews undertaken by other organizations, and some of those are voluntary, some of them are not, and they're grant funded to sort of check on the efficacy of open educational resources in particular. So one of the organizations at the University of Minnesota, Open Textbook Network, and I don't know these people at all. They were just polled, and I want to be, I don't want to read too much. But you can see some of the points here. Text covers the same materials as the Calculus 1. I got to say, the other aspect is, though, we'll be as transparent as needed. This reviewer, who gave us a pretty high rating, had a feeling about some of the figures in the Calculus book. And we'll always make this apparent to you if there's some criticism, and we will fix it. One thing about our series is that we can fix it basically any time. So, he said that the critical diagrams showing the construction of derivative are difficult to decipher because I guess everything's all crunched together. Good point, and we'll address that. But, so that was something said. On the other hand, said it was basically consistent and very similar structure to Stewart or Briggs, I guess the two that he was familiar with. And he had broken up he had looked at the first volume, so that's why he was talking about the 6 chapters. We go all the way through all the topics. There is one major difference. I'm sorry. What happened there? Sorry, I didn't mean to close out of that right at the moment of revelation. Section on limits at infinity doesn't rely. Oh. not covered until the limits are not covered just before optimization. So there's a difference in I guess what this professor was experiencing prior, or in other books. Another quick review. This is faster. Somebody felt that the text was very comprehensive. This person gave it actually a 5 out of 5. I don't know. I think that's very. I'm not saying it's generous. I'm not saying I don't like our book, but that's a pretty high rating. Felt that it was pretty clear and book structured similar way to our current book. Switching to OpenStax would be nearly effortless. So, basically, it kind of shows that we try to develop the book so that it could be seamlessly adopted. So that's the calculus information. Any questions on that? Any more information you'd like?
Yeah, I have a question. You said Pasadena City College currently uses this calculus textbook,
Yes.
but the XYZ system, homework system, is not available as of yet, correct? So what are they using?
What are they using for their homework system?
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I try to find out, but I don't know that for sure. Now, just so you know, the books are available independent of homework systems, so you don't have to use XYZ.
So they've adopted the book without, you don't know if they have an online homework system or not?
For calculus, honestly, I would imagine they do. So I don't know which one they're using. So I will say, we have some other homework system partners, and they might be using another, they could be using a different system and haven't aligned the assessment yet. But we do, we do have other homework system opportunities. So I could try to find out, what they're doing. But and I think it's two. I think it's two instructors there are the I forget their names off the top of my head, but I think it's two instructors there are the coordinators of the adoption. I'm not sure if there are others involved, if there's adjuncts or whatever, but we mostly deal with two instructors there who have.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks.
Anthony, what are some of the negative things that people have said about your books?
Negative, did you ask?
Yes, please.
So I would say one thing is that the books are not homogeneous. These are just like any publisher. Different courses, different authors, different programs, different times. So we don't get one universal praise or one universal criticism across the books. So around the math books, I think it's a matter of hey, is it covering it the way I cover it? We've gotten some comments there. We do get the sort of I don't want to call it, and I don't want to minimize it at all, but specific feedback like critical diagrams, construction, or derivative. Sometimes, although the everything's full color and we do put it through review, sometimes our graphics don't reveal as in a pristine manner, as well as some other books. And one of the reasons is that we are not into a level of page design where we're able to optimize every single graphic. So that sometimes the graphic display is seen to be a problem. Again, on the other hand, we have a lot of options, so people are generally willing to look past it. But that's one of the negative things we hear. In some of our other books, it's a matter of preference or balance. In some of the courses where you sort of have to pick a method or choose an approach, we chose one, and people are on the other side of it or something like that. Econ, sometimes we get points about whether we're balanced or not, things like that. But we don't get a universal praise or universal to all different professors and all different books. So
Okay.
yeah. I think one thing about the calculus book in particular, there was much more of a homogeneity within the book of voice. Some of our other books, like biology, 47 chapters, we sometimes get criticism that, wow, this really seems like it was written by a team. But in briefer books or ones where, again, Jed from UW did a ton of work here, and he was on every chapter, so he was able to kind of draw on the language and keep as much of a narrative flow as is possible. In this book, one of the points, there isn't as much cultural aspects, but the examples in calculus are trying to be drawn from things that will stay relevant and pertain to students as well. While we're talking, feel free to ask any other questions you have. I'm just gonna move to the site so I can get just kind of dive into the algebra for a little bit as well. But please feel free to ask any other questions you have about calc or anything else.
I have a question. I have a question regarding the intermediate algebra package.
Sure.
I just logged into my OpenStax account and took a look at the intermediate algebra textbook, and I am looking at the resources, instructor resources, and when I clicked on the video, it says coming soon. Is that something that we don't have it yet, or it's just missing? And is that the only intermediate algebra textbook that we see here is available, or there's more?
No, we only have one. Well, generally we only publish one book per course. So the one that you're seeing is the one. I don't know. Can you all still see my screen? I switch applications.
Yeah, I'm on the same page actually. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is the page you're referring to.
Yes.
I believe. Instructional video.
Right.
Yes.
When you click, it says coming
Okay.
soon from my site.
It does. No. Yes. It does that. So those are finished. They are. How are we? Where are we on these in particular? Those are finished. Those were from the author herself, and it's in an upload process. So this book, this intermediate algebra, this just published. This one published maybe a month ago. So some of the ancillaries are only in videos at this point are sort of a little bit behind. But they will be available for late spring and definitely for fall, for use in the class. If you'd like, I could we've got them, so I could always post them somewhere and have you take a look before we post them on the site. They might be going through some editing or something like that.
You can email it to me. You have my email, right? I send it when I logged in, or I can put it in the chat.
That would be if you put it in the I might be able to grab it. Let me see. It's probably if you don't mind putting in the chat, just so I'm sure I'm saying.
I will do that. And regarding the worksheets, do we have any worksheets available for this or coming up soon?
Some of the there's an intermediate. I would have to get back to you on that.
Sure.
I know
Anthony?
Yeah.
This is Patrick. As part of the package we're putting together for the developmental math, we're providing printed test banks, worksheets. We have activity books, and hopefully a workbook edition, similar to how West LA is using Math 105 and 112 now. So we'll be providing those along with the online homework templates, and those will all be available for fall.
That sounds great.
So, and this was the algebra that we were going to cover. I know that you asked a question about this one too, but what is it?
Yeah, the topics go along with what I'm covering in Math 125. So
okay.
That's perfect actually.
Okay. Right, and this is by Lynn Marisek over at Santa Ana. Very highly experienced teacher in a number of different contexts. I'm not sure if anybody knows her, but she has written these books she's had them quite some time that she's written them and used at Santa Ana at her school for 15 something years, something like that. And then also she's an online instructional coordinator. She coordinates the adjuncts. She has a lot of deep background in the student, the developmental math students, and these courses obviously themselves, having taught them, and is responsible for teacher training for adjunct coordination and so on. So she's very experienced, and was a strong author, I will say. It was, she really advocated for the students and for the content all along the way in terms of design and how we were covering it. really got into it in sort of the reviewer feedback and how we could meet their needs and how we could, sort of handle a lot of different comments that we got along the way, and so on. I'll just show the book. I don't know if everybody else has gotten a chance to see it at any point. And it does, so again, this would be the online version that I'm showing now. I have a lot going on in my system, so it's taking a second to come up. But, the online version differs a little bit from the, it's designed to be used in a number of different contexts, meaning screen sizes, devices, and so on. So while it might not, in this environment, look the flashiest, with the gray background and things like that, we found that for change of device and so on, if a student needs to see it on a smaller screen, I wouldn't recommend doing developmental math on a phone, but I know some students do, but maybe a smaller screen device and so on, it works. It all resizes. There is a PDF version that is much better designed, better colors and so on, and that's for, that student. And, what you'll see here is a lot of the explanations and so on, followed by examples, and questions right within the text, and these are just the practice questions. Obviously, you would see more robust questioning with no offered solutions at the end of the chapter. What questions do you have any questions, other questions specifically on algebra, on intermediate algebra, or on other books?
Anthony, can I ask a question?
Yeah, please do.
Answer. I know the calculus books are available from Amazon in print. I'm not sure about the developmental math, though. When do you expect to have those available in print?
They are going through their final print proof. So basically, the printer is it's all on the web printing docket, and we just go through one more round of QA to make sure that once it's on there, that it's going to all appear properly and so on. Nothing's going to jump pages and so on. So that is actually going on right now, and I think we print these in early May, and then they'll be available through Amazon and other vendors, and also your bookstore, everybody, if you wanted to get it through that. In late June, mid-June, they'd be available on Amazon. They probably wouldn't get, it depends when the bookstore orders. If the bookstore wanted them, it takes a few weeks, to get there. Just so you all know, the books are downloadable as PDFs and as the web view, as stated. The printed books are available, like Patrick was saying, through Amazon and other online retailers. You see a gray screen. I'm just downloading the PDF through Amazon, other retailers, and then the bookstores have full capacity to order them, just like they would order regular textbooks if students want to pick them up at the campus bookstore or something similar. What we often recommend is that students take a crack at the PDF version. This is a low resolution version, so you'll see a lot of sort of fuzziness. It's designed to be downloaded, if you're going to have to download over slow bandwidth or your cell phone or something, then there's a higher resolution version as well. But we recommend students, look at the PDF and then decide, hey, do I need a print book or not? The PDF also makes it available that it could be, travel with them.
So you're saying all the print versions will be available, the hardbound versions will be available in the fall for?
Yeah, they'll be available in plenty of time for bookstore ordering for the fall too. So that we're talking like June, I guess. And there, so as you saw if you saw on that other page, so these are the chapter questions for this book. There's a instructor and student solutions manuals, as is probably the practice with other books you've seen. The student solution manual has a subset, and the instructor solution manual has everything. But obviously, students working through XYZ would be doing most of their homework through that. Trying to think what else I could indicate about this book. What else is
Do you know what the overall feedback has been about the algebra books?
I gotta say, it's been very good. This was a very challenging course for us. Again, so this book is just out, so I can't, I gotta be honest, although I know we have some adoptions already, I can't give you a big long adoption list like calculus or anything like that just yet, but the in-development reviews, we really weighed them heavily, and they were overall it was very strong feedback. But this is a tough course to teach, as you all know, and the students arrive with a lot of a vast variance of preparation and capability and other things that could interrupt their learning. So we were trying to get especially the level right. Really, intermediate algebra was a tough one to get it right, and we kept going back and out to wider reviews and more people contributing the ideas to make sure we were getting it right and coming up with a book that sort of met everybody's needs, kind of met the students where they are, take them where they need to go approach. So the reviewer feedback was very strong. Again, we haven't really seen it adopted in too many places. Some people did, I will say, based on pre-algebra was available earlier, and some folks used it in the fall, and they said, hey, send me whatever you want, send whatever you can, and I'll use intermediate algebra in the spring, or I'll use elementary algebra in the spring, we were sending Word documents to people, so which is not our ideal publication method, as you can imagine. So, it was pretty positive, and people that saw the starting point, pre-algebra, were satisfied enough that they wanted to dive right into intermediate. So that was a good indicator for us.
Okay, I'm still exploring that intermediate algebra package, and I noticed that Newton's is a partner with this text. Can you tell us a little bit more about that with Newton?
Sure. So well, first of all, OpenStax has a number of partners, and they work in different ways, right? So Newton is a adaptive learning system. It's basically a little bit more of a student self-study sort of thing. It's a fee. I don't think I will say the package is a little more student directed than XYZ's in particular, and even WebAssigns are other partner in this discipline. It's a little bit more. It's not as instructor focused. I would mention just to be clear, to be honest. But it's a good program. It does it. If you want that sort of student self-study, student self-guided approach, it's strong for that. In terms of classroom management, I think Newton's not its highest priority. So anyway, so again, adaptive learning. A little less instructor control, and so on. So, but it's Newton's gotten a lot of accolades. It's used in a lot of different contexts. I don't know particularly how they fare in math. They're not specialized there. For example, they're specialized. They're not really specialized. They do all sorts of disciplines.
Yeah,
So-
I'm beta testing Newton's right now this semester,
Okay.
and I can integrate that with Canvas, and then use the text that way, probably.
I would imagine. Yeah, I would say that groups like companies XYZ and WebAssign, that LMS integration on their end. Yeah, it's sort of a must-have, right? You sort of have to have it, and like Patrick was describing about XYZ, they do it very seamlessly. And I would imagine that the other companies do something along those lines as well. And I'm sure that they do. So possible.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Any other? I know I'm not presenting as much on the intermediate algebra. Any other but a lot of the stuff is pretty similar. Any other questions about it, or anything else you'd like to, more information I could either send on or describe? I could go into more deeply if you like.
I guess one of my things is,
Go ahead.
I was going to ask kind of what were some of the other bigger difficulties you had with producing this book?
To be honest, the amount of math graphics basically is let's see if I can, yeah, right here, yeah. So, again, this is low res, so our images don't normally have these things around it, little ghosts. But, things like aligning text, making sure equations, that's a lot of math in this book that alignment's important, I think, in most cases, but also trying to balance that with sort of the real experience. I mean, do we always line it up? I mean, so when do we make students make their own jumps? That was a big decision. When do we make them, walk a little bit on their own conceptually? And that was a big choice area of pacing and so on. And, we didn't want to just rely on the fact that, we have a pre-algebra book, because this is intermediate. It's for that course. So, the students are, hopefully more prepared and so on, but they also have other things going on. So that was an issue, and so on. I think in general, that there's so much presented here. Let me just zoom out a little. We're doing this two-sided construction, like you see here very often. And again, it's very straightforward. But in some cases, faculty in this course in particular were hoping, we're saying, hey, are you going too slow? But then we have to sort of balance it. I think in this question in chapter 2, obviously we're going to keep the pacing somewhat moderate. But when are we letting students walk on their own? But then, some of the challenges were just, kind of doing all that alignment, keeping it all straight, and so on. That was a big one, and just getting it right. I know that. That was something that came up a lot.
So another couple of questions. One, do you know what the general cost is from Amazon and/or bookstores?
I can check that for you right now. I'm just going to go to another course, just so I think this book it's under $50. It's going to be. Okay, you know what I'll do, if it's okay, I'm just going to look at college algebra. And so the college algebra is $52 from OpenStax. So all our books are, especially since this is going to be about the same size, it will be very close to that. It could be 49, it could be 54, something in that range though. It won't be over $56 by any means. It will be probably significantly less than that. Well, I shouldn't say significantly, but it'll be about under 55 or under.
Is that not with an XYZ system?
No, that would be just for the print book itself. Again, the download would be free. For the print book and XYZ, I don't know if there's any package opportunities, but I believe XYZ is about $30, and the printed book would be $52.
All right.
And if the students are just getting the download, then it's free, and then the XYZs would be $30.
Yeah, I was just going to say the West LA College Bookstore is really aggressive with rental pricing and used books. I know, rentals for as little as $10 or $15 a semester, and just because these are open source books, they'd probably be able to do the same kind of thing once they had a round of books in stock, and then they were sold back.
I could follow when I do some follow up to this. I could tell you the exact price of this one as well on the Amazon pages. Don't know exactly how we priced it.
What about the overall difficulty that you found? The overall difficulty of the book. I know you talked about balancing and such, and I was curious what your overall thoughts were about the algebra book and then the calculus book as well.
I think that on the algebra side, I would say, again, if you haven't noticed it already, I'm not a mathematician or math professor or anything. I would say our book would probably be on the easier side, lower level, less rigor, more, or at least slower pacing. Just knowing where Lynn comes from in terms of her views on where students are coming from, and she has these personal stories about and students who have come to her with various difficulties getting through specific content. I couldn't understand this because of that. I couldn't, it just didn't make any sense to me over the years, of all these things when she was using other books. And she really tried to incorporate that, and I think she was sensitive to the needs of that student. And I would say that our book is probably, you'd have to judge it for yourself, but if I had to guess, it's on the lower end. On the calculus, I would say it's sort of right down the middle. I don't think that we have not heard that we're any easier There was a worry that coming, with Gil coming from MIT, that it would be too hard or too different, but it's pretty mainstream. And as you see, the calculus book is adopted at a range of types of schools, and it's doing fine at all different types of schools. So I think on the calculus side, it's sort of right in the middle in terms of rigor. It's very similar to the other textbooks people have adopted, and nothing too fast or nothing too difficult to cover. And intermediate, again, probably on the easier side, but I don't know, say easy, but slightly lower level.
The next question I had is when a college or university adopts one of your books, what generally is the probability, or do they adopt more books? Basically, that's what I'm asking. Do they get more books from you, or do they just stay with the one, or they just leave?
We have a very low instance of people choosing a book and then dropping it. Most folks seem to stay with our books. I will also say, just to this, be realistic about that. It's not like our books have been around for 10 years. So over the course of you probably, I don't know, maybe use some books for 2 editions and then move to a different book or something like that. So we haven't had that full cycle yet, just to be honest. But most people stick with our books, and it almost always goes up. But like I said, West LA is using 4 of our books right now. Well, if you count Econ as 2, but let's count it as 1. They're using 4 of our textbooks right now. In instances where there are similar books, such as physics, what we're seeing is, they adopted our college physics. We're extremely eager for our university physics, and then now that we have astronomy as well, sort of, it's a different type of course than algebra-based or calculus-based physics, different audience type. But adopting astronomy quite quickly, we're seeing a lot of that. So in those sort of course cluster areas, we're seeing that as well. In math, where some textbooks are adopted in series, we don't. So we have a pre-calc series, as I mentioned, college algebra, algebra and trig, and pre-calc. Not every school teaches all 3 as a sequence, or there's different audiences. It's you probably know better than me, but but often we see 2 of them adopted, and so on. With developmental math, the books are just coming out now, so what we expect is that we know that often series are adopted, not all the time though. And that we'll see a little more of that as well. But it definitely goes up. And I mentioned the institutional partner program. There are many affordability or related efforts at schools, and we don't like to get involved. We support those efforts wholeheartedly, but we don't like to get involved in sort of top-down dictation of textbooks. What we're able to get involved with awareness, like, hey, this is available. But we don't, from our end, we try to make it we really focus on the faculty. That's, from our point of view, that's the driver. We don't really go as administratively as much or systematically. We think that, it's gonna happen if the faculty think it's a good book. And that's why we involve so many faculty in the development.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Any other? Okay, I got these on sending the videos. Anything else you'd all like to know, or something I'd follow up with, or anything Patrick should answer or tell you about?
Anthony, can you bring up that list, that the OpenStax website again? I just want to go over what schools in the area are using these books.
That'd be great, yeah.
So the pre-algebra book, the author at Santa Ana College are using the pre-algebra book at all the pre-algebra course at Santa Ana College. Like you said, the elementary and intermediate just published, but we're getting a lot of interest in those. The college algebra, the blue cover, that's used at Glendale College, The pre-cal and the red cover, of course, at CSUN. My school, it's used at Cal State LA in the pre-calculus class. LA Mission is using the pre-calculus book as well. But a lot of interest in some.
Pre-calculus, Patrick?
Pardon me?
We didn't quite hear who is using pre-calculus.
So the pre-calculus is the basis for the custom book we put together at CSUN. They're also using it at Glendale College, at LA Mission, College of the Canyons, and Cal State LA. So basically the college algebra and pre-calculus are very similar. College algebra has 2 chapters at the beginning to review intermediate algebra material, and obviously pre-calculus has the trig. But other than that, they're within a section or 2 of each other.
Great.
Patrick, that's who's using the pre-calculus sequence?
Yeah, those schools using the pre-calculus sequence, exactly.
Okay, the pre-calculus, the orange,
Yes.
Yeah. Blue, the red, the orange.
the red or the orange, okay.
The blue, the red, or the orange.
The blue, the red or the orange.
Okay. For the future follow-up questions, what would be a good email or numbers that we can have to keep in touch?
You know what? I will put it in the chat, and I think.
Thank you.
GoToMeeting here. Hold on 1 sec. I just have to get back to the GoToMeeting screen. Where we go? There we go. Okay, I'm going to put it right here. But also, I can follow up with you all. I have all your names from the well, if the invites were, if everybody was on the email chain that I think Matt sent out. One. Oh.
Yes, everybody. Let's just email this.
And I can definitely send on the follow-up and so on. And to that point regarding the adoptions, thanks so much, Patrick, for going through that. If anybody wants information along those lines, glad to provide it.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Anthony, is it possible to get a copy of this webinar in case somebody who's not present wants to listen to it? Thank you.
I will try. I don't know if I actually hit record.
Okay.
I think it was recording.
Oh, it was? Okay, then we should be fine. Yeah,
So
if
what did you send me a link or something like that?
you know, I don't think it was. I apologize. I should have done that.
I've been recording the session. If you don't mind, I can send the link to Matt.
Oh, outstanding.
Maybe you're amazing. Thank you.
Outstanding. Yeah. But please also, I mean, you know, we could. I mean, I don't want to take anybody's time too much, but if anybody else that's on the, on the team or other instructors would like to interact, please feel free to pass it on, or I could reconnect with them separately, and I'm glad to do it again, and more targeted or anything like that as well.
Right. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Good.
Sounds good.
Well, I hope this was helpful. Thanks so much for considering the books and learning about them, and obviously XYZ as well. I think it's a great system, and the books within it are, everything works really well. Thanks again, and Patrick, thank you, and if there's anything you want to, add on here, go ahead.
It's great, Anthony. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Okay, so you'll see some emails from me, especially those links, but to everybody as well. And definitely feel free to pass that on to anybody else in the department, or who might be interested. Glad to connect with them separately. And if there's any general questions that you want the whole group to see, mass email is fine as well. So whatever works.
Okay. Thank you, Anthony.
Great, thanks so much.
Right, thank you.
Patrick. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Bye.